welcome back to another video, and today we'll be reacting. I'm sorry you guys, I haven't been posting as much as you guys have been wanting me to post, or those who want me to post. I've been kind of lacking off and not wanting to post. I've been kind of feeling really lazy, but I'm gonna try to post more often, and I hope you guys can forgive me on that. I was gonna post a reaction video for FNAF, but it got too scary for me. So now, now we're reacting to how do you pronounce this?
A bunch of you told me that the troll infection.
Oh wow!
A bunch of you have been telling me to.
But yeah, we're gonna react to him. And yeah, I mean, I got nothing else to say. Let's get into the video, you guys.
A bunch of you have been telling me to check out this Plants vs. Zombie horror AU called Through the Eyes of Plants, and another one called Through the Eyes of Zombies, created by JHG Comics and Ricto Plays, respectively. And after watching each, I can say that they are both really well done and surprisingly gruesome. And I'm not exaggerating when I say gruesome, so if you're used to seeing like the cute little Plants vs. Zombie game, this is not it. Now, Through the Eyes of Plants starts off with this newspaper article, and while my Spanish isn't great, I think it basically says that the war between the plants and the zombies has gotten out of control. And in the next scene, we get a glimpse into this when we arrive on this battlefield and see this war through the eyes of this pea shooter. And just as you would expect in a war, we see zombies being blown to smithereens, pieces of plants being ripped off, and just general carnage. I also find it funny that when we cut over to Dave for a second, he just sees like a normal sunny day while these plants are literally fighting for their lives. After the battle is over, we see the pea shooter get rewarded with a sack of cash, although I don't think that's going to be enough to cover all the therapy this little dude is going to need. Now, at the end of this first episode, we see a pot with a plant inside, and then we see a needle injecting something into it, causing a pea shooter to be created. And while this may not make sense right now, we'll come back to it later. In the second episode, we start by seeing this little mushroom looking absolutely terrified, awaiting for the next battle to begin. And then we see the zombies arrive by first taking out this light source here. And after a short fight where the zombies are kind of kicking the crap out of these little mushrooms, we hear this lullaby in the background.
Is it the puppet is it the puppet from FNAF?
And for the people who may be wondering why this guy seems so creepy, it's because he was somewhat dangerous in the actual game as well. Basically, the jack-in-the-box here is an explosive, and if you don't take him out fast enough, he can basically do some serious damage to your troops. So it was lucky for the plants that a pea shooter was...
Man, I remember this man. This man was so, like, annoying to deal with when I played Plants vs. Zombies.
...able to take him out here, or so I thought, before the jack-in-the-box still activated anyway and blew up all the mushrooms.
Wow.
I also felt really bad for this little dude here because he looks devastated at the end of this battle. Now, the next chapter starts off with a continue.
Oh, is that what it was? Do you remember? You guys remember seeing the pea shooter with like the fast pea shooter with the helmet? Is that him like showing like his like past and then he's gonna show his future or something?
Of the night's battle, but at least now it actually looks like the plants are putting up a real fight. But I think the most important part of this episode is what we see in the garage. We get to see the pea shooter that was created in the first episode, and now he has left the pot. When the little guy looks around, he sees some experiment plans on the wall, and when he looks around the room, we can actually see some of these failed experiments. Wow. And while they all look lifeless, when the pea shooter goes to the cage here, we can see some kind of creature, although we cut away before the big reveal. Now, while all this is happening in the garage, outside we see this kernel core actually keeping watch, and then we see a huge zombie mech come onto the battlefield. And for a moment, the plants are actually holding their own until this freaking mech releases a fireball, which destroys their line. And at this point, I really just feel bad for the plants. Yeah, this chapter ends with the mech picking up this little dude here, and for a moment, we see this purple pair of eyes hiding inside the mech. But before we can actually get a good look at it, the mech closes his hand and crushes this little plant. And then the mech goes on to continue to rage throughout the battlefield. In the next chapter, we see that the Plant vs. Zombie hero characters are not able to avoid this war. And judging by the look on Solar Flare's face here, they are definitely traumatized. And you can't really blame her when you see that the green shadow has been beaten down and then looks like nailed to this crosshair. Brass knuckles are in the hands of this zombie, and Solar Flare basically just has to watch this dude be ripped apart. We have a moment of hope when Chompzilla comes onto the...
Man, they tryna copy my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Scene and tears into this zombie, only for the mech to come back and make short work of her as well. And while I know some people were upset that Solar is just standing there looking at all this go down, in reality, most of you would probably do the same thing as well if you were in this
That's what I'm
crazy
saying.
battle. But put down in the comments, do you think if you were in a war like this that you would freeze up like Solar Flare, or do you think you'd be right in there fighting with your comrades?
No, I would freeze up.
After all that, we cut back into the garage and see this paper with plans to turn plants into their hero forms, although most of the attempts have failed. But as you can see here, there was one success. On the operation table, we see this sunflower who is strapped down with Dave looking over her, ready to start this experiment. Also, make sure to notice that his eyes are purple here, and that will play a big part later on in the series. Next, we see this image, and it's basically showing the next part of the experiment,
Oh,
which seems to be turning the sunflower into this human-plant hybrid. In the next scene, we see Dave inject some kind of serum into Solar Flare, which causes her eyes to bulge in panic and her limbs to start to grow rapidly. After that, we cut back to this image and we see the word failure here. Although, based on the fact that Sunflower wakes up, I would say that this operation was a success. This scene ends with Dave and what looks like the zombie mech looking into the garage before the sunflower passes out again. And while this may seem confusing now, it'll make more sense later, trust me. Now, after some time, we see that Solar Flare wakes up, and as she's looking around the room, she finds plans for the human-plant hybrids that she was based on. But what she doesn't notice is that there seems to be another set of plans on the back, and this one seems to be for a pea shooter instead of a sunflower. And then we see the garage door open, and a pair of eyes.
Sorry guys about the cut in the video. I was texting someone. I was trying to get my I got my account back. Or not, I didn't lose it, but I got to my account. I got in my account again. What I'm trying to say. All right, let's get back into the video.
Eyes looking in through the darkness, followed by a pea narrowly missing the sunflower's head. This chapter ends with a bunch of eyes glaring in through the darkness, which when you think about it is absolutely terrifying. The next episode acts as a bit of a flashback, and as you could have guessed, the war is still raging, with these pea shooters holding the line. But more importantly, we see a Zomboss here, and he seems to be doing an experiment where he's taking the head of a pea shooter and placing it on the body of a zombie, in a way creating the zombie version of the sunflower hybrid. We also notice in the back here that Dave's name is written all over the wall again and again, showing a weird kind of obsession that I don't remember from the game. Another thing that I noticed is that overall, Zomboss also just looks defeated, almost as if he's been forced to continue this fight against his will. The last thing that I want to note in this episode is the reference to the 1,000-yard stare image
that's what I'm saying.
which funny enough has been like a meme in the Plant vs. Zombie community with a ton of artwork being made in reference to it.
I seen
The
that.
episode ends going back to the present, showing not only the zombie pea shooter, but also some of the other plant zombie hybrids. And while this is obviously a tough position for our duo here, I do find it kind of cute that the sunflower is holding on to the pea shooter as if she's going to protect the little dude. The next chapter starts with the zombie plants attacking our duo, but the sunflower is able to not only dodge, but also fight back here. We also see some of these failed experiments fighting to protect the pair as well, but even with all that, the pea shooter zombie is still able to get a hand on a sunflower, but luckily, she's able to actually rip off her own hand, which I hope is going to grow back, and she gets away from the zombie, setting the whole garage up in flames as she leaves. And if you're like me, you probably thought that she was going to be safe now, but apparently this zombie is basically like Nemesis and can survive just about anything.
He dodged it!
We then see the sunflower collapse, worn out by all this action, but before the zombie can actually get to her, he starts having flashbacks, remembering not only how he was created, but all the carnage he has seen when he was still alive. And at first, I didn't understand, but it seems like this pea shooter is one of the first plants to get taken out in the earlier episodes of the series. Now, the next episode is actually a song, and I think that this was meant to show the connection between this series and the series called Through the Eyes of Zombies, which is where the man is actually from here. And as I said, my Spanish isn't great, but the song is basically about how this man is suffering in this war. He's been forced to fight, and like his body has been mutated. I'd appreciate if some of my Spanish-speaking people could give like a more detailed translation, because I think I probably understand it, but you guys will definitely have a better grasp of it than I do. In the 8th episode, it seems to be like a series of flashbacks. The first one being Dave and the plants living happily, and then abruptly turning into like this dark, warlike atmosphere from earlier episodes. To another flashback that shows when Solar Flare was fighting and had just witnessed Chompzilla get crushed. But in this vision, we get to see this shadowy figure laughing down at her while controlling the mech. And if you remember from earlier, We saw that whoever was controlling the mech had purple eyes. In the next scene, we get to see Zomboss, and his base has been infiltrated by Dave and a fire and ice pea shooter. And surprisingly, Dave isn't messing around here, and he immediately gives Zomboss that shovel work, taking off some of the flesh on his head, leaving him alive, but obviously messed up. The next scene
Oh wow, that's crazy.
cuts back to the present day, and Solar Flare and the pea shooter are walking down the street here when they see this skeleton.
You know how scary? Wow, hold on. Wow, you know how scary it is. Like, there's occasions where I'm on TikTok or Instagram. Well, I don't see them anymore, but I used to see videos of infection videos. If you guys know what I'm talking about, it's usually like My Little Pony or My Little Pony, Sonic. I saw one of like Miraculous, but I only saw one though. But yeah, there's like usually infection videos. If you guys know what I'm talking about, it feels like this. Like we're watching right now. It feels like we're watching an infection video. But yeah, don't search them out first of all. If you have love horror videos, then search up the infection. But if you don't, then don't search it up. But yeah, let's get back into the video.
With writing above it saying, "The living dead wears masks," which I believe still refers to the human from the song and also just like the overall Through the Eyes of Zombie animation. Now, our duo here doesn't have time to ponder this body or what's written on the walls here because a zombie bursts out of a building, giving them more pressing things to worry about. This episode ends by going back to the veggie zombie who is standing in front of the zombie mech. And surprisingly, the head opens up, revealing the pilot, who is none other than Dave, which I'm sure some of you have probably already figured out. The next episode starts with us seeing this hypno-shroom watching all the war and carnage taking place. And while I think that he's just like going to be another victim, it doesn't go down like that. Instead of being eaten, this mushroom mind controls a zombie and then forces him to tear into his own team. And judging by the fact that his smile gets bigger and bigger here, you can tell that he's enjoying this. And as a side note, this is a nice little twist because in the official lore, this mushroom can make zombies fight each other, but it really wanted to infect the zombies and force them to join the plants because it didn't really see the zombies as enemies, but rather just misguided creatures. But in this AU, it seems like the mushroom is fed up with this war in general and ready to tear it all down. We see this even further when it goes to Dave's window and places him under this mind control. And now it all starts to make sense why Dave started experimenting on plants and how he was able to access that zombie mech. The little mushroom has basically been pulling the strings on both sides of this war. We can even see the mushroom is attached to Dave's head here, basically acting as...
Oh wow, okay, that's okay. I thought maybe Dave was like, maybe like he had infected, maybe he got bit, or maybe he's just an evil person. But I didn't think was getting mind control. That's just something very cool. I thought it was something else.
a parasite and controlling him and a bunch of other creatures. And while we see our veggie zombie trying to fight back, he is completely overwhelmed by the fire and ice pea shooters, who seem to have gone through the same or a similar transformation as him. Luckily, Solar Flare and a little pea shooter are still alive and fighting, and as you can see here, she is not messing around and gives this guy a full Solar Flare right to the face. And even though the action seems to take her out of her human form, she seems to be relieved to be back to her actual body, at least until she sees the football zombie walk out of her flames, mad as heck and virtually unharmed. The final scene of this episode shows the pea shooter zombie knocked out and torn up. But as we fade to black, we can kind of see his limbs are starting to grow back, showing that he's not out of the fight just yet. In the final chapter, we start out by seeing this football zombie is still being a menace, whooping hand, feet, and cheeks. And while that fight is happening, we get to the important part, which is when we see our duo get picked up by the mech and have a chance to actually speak with the hypno-shroom. And for what I can understand, the mushroom greets Solar Flare, referring to her as her sister, and explains that she's unhappy with the fact that she doesn't have full control of all the soldiers on the battlefield, especially this guy here who is still on a rampage. She also tells Solar that she has tasted the future that all plants will soon share, referring to the fact that Solar had actually taken a human serum earlier in the series.
Oh wait, I think the plant, the one controlling Dave, I think their plant, the reason why they're making human forms, I think the one that's controlling Dave, I think that plant is trying to make human beings to what do you call it? What I'm get this is what I'm guessing. I think the mind control, the mushroom is trying to control Dave to make human plants for them to be a society of like pretty much take over the world and turn everyone into plants or something like that, or to like repopulate, but like not like that, like more like of a plant way. If you know what I'm talking about.
And this seems to be the end goal that this mushroom has in mind for all the plants, so that they can claim their rightful place at the top of the food chain, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
shroom also claims that all this carnage was for the betterment of all plant kind. But in the middle of his speech, we see someone take a snipe at him, forcing him to go on to the next step of the plan, which is to inject himself with the serum. And then we see this mushroom turn into a human plant hybrid as well. And while all this is happening, we see that the football zombie is still being a menace and taking down his minions in the background. Can we get a football zombie as the GOAT in the chat? My man
Mm-hmm.
is really single-handedly like evening out this fight in a way. Now, since Solar Flare is not willing to go along with the Shroom's plan, the two of them start to battle on top of the mech.
That's creepy.
But it's pretty one-sided considering that Solar Flare is much weaker at nighttime. The only good news here is that the footballer is causing so much chaos that it forces the Shroom to actually focus on him for a moment, even going as far as to send the mech to attack him directly. And just when it seems like this is going to be the end for Solar, we see a shovel embed itself into the Shroom's shoulder. And then the original veggie zombie takes off a whole chunk of his side. Unfortunately, this isn't enough to put this guy down, and he's able to throw the veggie zombie away. But then we see this little pea shooter take a shot at the stem that is connecting the mushroom to Dave, severing the connection, meaning that Dave is now fully back in control of his body. And this gives the veggie zombie a opening to attack, leaving both of them with terrible wounds. But it seems like the shroom is the stronger of the two because he's able to get back on his feet and press the attack. But since the sun is back up now, Solar is able to attack again, giving this mushroom the full solar blast, only for him to eat that as well. And just when it seems like this battle will never end, the football zombie, aka the
Go. That's a
comes
go
through
right there.
and rips the mushroom in
Yes,
half,
sir.
finally putting an end to this battle before fading
Oh
himself.
wow.
The next scene shows what happens after the battle, and it's basically a beautiful sunny day, and we see the pea shooter and solar flare out in the yard, and other plants are starting to come back as Dave is watering the grass. And as Solar is laying in the grass, we see a sunflower statue appear with a note next to it. And while some people think that this is a hint to what is going to happen in part 2, we don't have much to go on here. Some people think that in the next series it's going to be the plants and the zombies versus the gnomes, but I have a different take.
Oh yeah,
When
the
you zoom
gnomes.
into the face of the statue here, you can
Oh.
see that the sunflower has excess over its eyes, and this kind of gives the vibe as if like it's no longer living. I think the note and the statue are basically a threat, and that Solar is still in danger. Although we don't actually know what the danger
Oh.
is yet.
What if it's the zombie, the leader of the zombie? What if he's like, he saw what was going on, so now he's threatening them, trying to take them out and stuff.
Now that we have covered Through the Eyes of Plants, I want to go over some of the episodes from Through the Eyes of Zombies because it will help us kind of understand some of the lore from the series as a whole. And fair warning, you're probably going to start feeling bad for the zombies here. Now, Through the Eyes of Zombies starts out with Zomboss doing some kind of experiment on this human here, and it's pretty graphic. And I'm not sure I want to show too much of it, especially because YouTube has already slapped me down for my My Little Worms video. Now, once this experiment is over, we see Zomboss direct the humans to go attack Dave, and this is where things start to click for me. In this series, the zombies are actually humans, and they are being forced to fight in this war against their will, which makes the song that the creators made make a lot more sense. The other thing that I find interesting is just like with Dave, initially the humans see these plants as like cute little creatures, but that all changes once this pea shooter takes a shot at one of them. And then we see the plants change in real time. We also learn here that if the humans do not fight, the collars around their necks will explode, showing that these poor dudes don't really have an option but to attack. Our main character here does manage to escape though. However, I'm not sure that that's actually the better fate. And we can kind of see this in the next scene where he's breaking down because of all the carnage that he just witnessed, only for him to be sent right back out to the fight again. And since we've already seen this battle from the eyes of the plants, I'm only going to point out a few things, such as the Jack-in-the-Box zombie, who I thought was so creepy initially. But when you look at him here, I definitely just feel bad for this guy because
Wow, that's crazy.
he knows that his time is up either way. Another thing that stood out is this disco guy here who manages to escape the battle only to have his collar explode. And if you
Oh, that was him.
You look here, this is actually the scene from the first series that actually told us that the Walking Dead wear masks, which now makes this all make sense. I don't know if this guy was trying to like get a message out to the plants or Dave maybe to see if they could help them get out of this battle, but obviously that did not work. After that, we get it looking to Zomboss's lab and see this list of humans that he has created. And we see like Zombie Stein here has already been taken out, the Disco Zombie had his head popped off, and the Super Brain has escaped. But before Zomboss can move on to another experiment, Dave bursts into his lab, basically showing us the shovel scene from Zomboss's perspective, and also revealing how Dave was able to get to the mech. In the next chapter, we also get to see how the humans and the plants were trying to come together at one point and stop the violence, but we know that the hypno-shroom wasn't having any of that. It made sure to put down any person that he couldn't control, which is what we actually see happen to this poor guy here. We also get to learn why some of the zombies were so strong, and it seems like Zomboss did some more experimenting to turn the humans into superheroes, basically like how the plants have their heroes like Solar Flare and Green Shadow. But none of these humans wanted to actually go through this terrible torture that took place in order to get these powers. Something else that I want to point out just as a side note is that Chompzilla is absolutely terrifying from the perspective of the humans. She was basically just stalking around the battlefield, devouring any human that she found. All in all, I thought that this was a really cool concept, especially because they gave us the option to see like both sides of the battle, why things played out the way they did, and the toll that it took on the humans and the plants, really. I didn't add as much as I could have from the Through the Eyes of Zombies series because we pretty much already knew everything that happened through the eyes of the plants. But I definitely recommend that you check out both of the videos in full because I did leave out a lot of the carnage. But with that being said, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out this video on the screen here. Subscribe today to become a member of the Orange Force, and we will see you tomorrow with another one. Peace, peace.
Peace.
This
son. Okay, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. You know, reaction. I didn't say much because I didn't want you guys to. And I wanted you guys to enjoy the video and not get bored of me just yapping. So I'll let you guys watch the video. But thank you guys so much for tuning in today. You know, watch me react to another YouTuber. I managed to get my Roblox account back up, or I got it back. And so, you know, maybe later on in this week, I might post some new videos on Roblox, you know. I don't know, kind of game, either horror or fun, not sure. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And you guys have a blessing day. Take care, you guys.